have a very special guest, man, the director of football recruiting, and has a lot of experience. So, man, Coach Bradford, we're glad to have you on. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself while you coaching stops, any funny stories, anything that you got, man, go on and get it out, and then we can get going.
All right. Thanks, Jordan. Thanks for having us on. I'm here, Todd Bradford at Oklahoma State. I also have Josh Gonzalez, the assistant director of recruiting, here with me. So I met Jordan a long time ago. This has to be 2005, 2006.
Yep. Yes, sir.
I'm going to get this right. Plano West.
Look at that. There you go. We still on it then. There it is. West. Yep.
We tried to make him into a Cowboy. He broke my heart and went to Texas A&M and hurt my feelings. I'm still not over it all the way. So, yeah, I've coached at 14 different schools. I've been fortunate. This is my second time back with Coach Gundy. Brought us back, and we're recruiting, as you know, has changed tremendously since the days you recruited. We now have about 15 people in our recruiting department, and we handle the bulk of the recruiting, and our coaches are handling more and more of the coaching, and less of the recruiting. I think it's going the way of the NFL, where you'll have eventually a personnel department and a coaching department, and those two will cross over somewhat, but certainly not like coaches did back when you were in high school.
Right.
So I'm happy to be here. Anything I can do to help, love to be here.
Man, so look, all we want to do is we want to answer some questions, all right? So, as you know, man, I run my own football program. We got our own high school program going now, and I get 1,000 questions from parents, right? So I figure no better person to ask than the person who is the director of recruiting. They know all the ins and outs and everything. So I know one of the questions that I want to ask is this, man. I want to ask it from a different perspective. Since you handle the majority of the role from the recruiting side, is what are the biggest misconceptions when it comes to the recruiting process, right? So I always get parents all the time, man, should I be doing this? Should I have this recruiting service there? What do I need to go to camps? Who do I need to listen to? What do the parents need to do? So what are those misconceptions, and what is the right path for the parents and for the athlete?
Yeah, great question. I think the biggest misconception is that you can hire someone to get you recruited. That is not. The emails that we get from recruiting services, we delete. They don't even get opened.
You just made a lot of people mad, Coach. Well, you just made a lot of people mad. Yep.
You're a good enough player to play at Oklahoma State. We're going to find you. I have 9 or 10 recruiting analysts. That's all they do all day is look at film. And so if you're good enough to play at Oklahoma State, we'll find you. And so I would say that's the number one thing. We don't even buy, back in the day, we bought database names, from Collegiate Sports Data and some of those kinds of places. We don't buy those anymore. We're just looking at guys on film. That's how we're deciding where guys are. So number one, you have to have good enough film. On your film, we use Huddle a lot. If you put one of the factors that we're looking for, so we're looking for guys who love football, we're looking for guys that are tough, and we're looking for guys that are productive. Those are three base things that come from Coach Gundy on every recruit, doesn't matter what position. So if your highlight tape has 12 plays on it, it might not get watched. Because
let's get into it. Yep, let's get into it, Coach.
12 highlights from your season, then you're not productive enough to play at Oklahoma State.
Right. Wow.
You know what I mean?
Love it.
You have 7 plays on your highlight tape, right? Because you're dominating your high school and your conference and where you're playing, just like you did, right? You could have made probably 150 play highlight tape your junior year. So that's what we're looking for. The next thing I would say is there's 2 kinds of camps that guys should attend. Guys should attend national camps that are getting published onto. I'll give you a couple examples. We use a group called Z Crew. They're involved in a lot of camps. They post those camps on their website. We use a company called UC Report. They're involved with another camps. They put their camps on their website. That allows us as a recruiting staff to see what you look like out of your pads, to see your height, your weight, sumo squat. You can bend your hips, broad jumps, vertical jumps, things hard for us to see on film, but are important in recruiting, then we can see those from those camps. And they're a little more verified height and weights, 40s.
Right.
I'm not saying they're verified. I'm saying they're more verified.
Well,
right?
They're what you trust. They're what you trust then. Yep.
They're a little more what they trust. Now, what
Right.
I trust most are our camps. So if there's a school you really want to go to, or there's an area you really want to go, then you need to go to their camp. They're 25 bucks cases, 30 bucks. They're over an day. You know, if you want to go to Oklahoma State, you should come to our camp. If you want to go, you know, whatever school it is, you want to go to Boise State. Well, you need to get in the car and drive out to Boise State and go to their camp.
Right.
Because then those heights, weights, 40s, all those things are verified and guys can see you in person. And I think so it's a small pool of guys, you know, that are actually going to get these scholarships with the portal and things. We're probably recruiting, I'm going to ask Josh here, 20% less, 25% less high school guys than we were 2 years ago. And so, you know, the pool is small. And so you need to get where guys can see you in person. Now, because of the portal, our own recruiting base is a 4-hour circle around Oklahoma State. We don't want guys to tell us that they're homesick and they're going home.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
Right.
So changes the way you recruit. Right. Mm-hmm.
Correct. We recruit all of Texas like it's the state of Oklahoma. So we're going to recruit the state of Oklahoma. We're going to recruit the state of Texas. And then we're going to draw a circle around Stillwater, 4 hours.
Right.
We're going to connect a little bit of Kansas, you know what I mean? A little bit of Louisiana, you know, a little bit of Arkansas. We're going to get some of those places because we found that the guys who are most successful at Oklahoma State are the guys that live near Oklahoma State.
Oh, that's big. Well, you gave a lot, man. You gave a lot of answers to a lot of the questions in that. So see, that's why I love you. See, that's why I wanted you on, Coach.
Good.
You've been through the process. All right, so look, so let's do it a little different, right? So when I get on and I ask, the coaches that are coaching the recruiting perspective, I want to ask you from the director perspective, all right? Almost like a GM perspective. So when you're putting a roster together and you're evaluating the talent, which you touched on a little bit earlier, what is that process like when building a team, though? All right, so we're out recruiting players. We're looking at height, weight, looking at the film. Are you productive? All that good stuff. How do you mesh that together into a team, though? Building a roster. What does that look like?
That's a great question. So probably the hardest thing that we have now, it's always been difficult. It's more difficult now than it's ever been, is having the roster with the correct number of players at each position. For example, every position we have a certain number of guys that are going to be on scholarship, and then a certain number of guys that are going to walk on to get us to 85 scholarship, to get us to 110 for the in camp, fall camp roster, and then 40 for our team roster. So we know exactly how many guys we need at each spot. So I'll give you an example. Defensive end, we know based on who's leaving that we have one spot available for this recruiting class. A kid from Oklahoma committed to us. We feel good. We feel like he's in. It doesn't matter how good a defensive end you are right now. We're probably not going to recruit you because you don't fit in our number.
Right.
Another number that always, obviously happens a lot is quarterbacks. That's forever with quarterbacks. You get a quarterback, commit another one. Or you're not taking another one because you probably had to promise that kid you weren't going to take another one. So when you're building the roster, you're always trying to work off of who's leaving so that you can replace who's coming back in. Now everyone now, because of the portal, they're going to save some spots because they may have a spot open up that they didn't know they were going to have. Right. So let's go to the defensive end situation. If you were a great defensive end, I mean, you were Jordan style defensive. We might still be recruiting you because I don't know if our defensive end is going to go in the portal or not.
Ooh, okay, I got you. Yep.
You with me?
I got you. Yep, I'm following you.
So really, the management of the roster now is probably, I would say, as much of our job as recruiting. Myself and staff, we meet on the roster numbers a minimum of once a week where we're talking about, okay, this is the guys going out. These are the guys coming in. How many numbers? Do we got the numbers right? You know, because I certainly don't want to have enough guys committed that I have to go into Coach Gundy and say, we don't have enough spots.
Right.
Yep. I also don't want to go in there and say we got 5 spots left and there's no one to recruit. You know what I mean? So that's
exactly
that we're on all the time with the size of the roster. There's some legislation out there that the NCAA is going to mandate the roster sizes for everybody, and it's going to change. And there's going to be, you know, you're not going to be able to have 100 at one school and 120 at another school. I don't know how down the road that is, but that's out there. But I think that there's certainly going to be some changes with the way name, image, likeness, and rosters are handled, because right now it's you know, you can't plan for who's going in the roster. You know, there are teams that had 30 guys going in the roster or going.
Wow. Right.
There's no way to plan that. Now, the one advantage that high school guys do have now, that what is at least on for this season. It was on for 23. It's on for 24. I don't imagine it's going to change. Is that the maximum 25 limit that was put on everyone for their initial class is gone. That's not, you know, we actually signed 30, I think, this year. So
okay. Right. That'll work. Sorry about that. Got the little one here with me.
Oh no!
Trying to get a banana. I'm over there changing underwear, and serving bananas. Right?
That's good. Good
so look, all right. So you made me pose the question. I've had kids do this. Drives me up the wall when they do this. Okay. I've had kids receive offers, but they are waiting on the bigger offer. Right. So correct. All right. So you just went into the management of the roster. You went into how you got to. You know, you got to play. You got to play the game a little bit, right? You know, right. Do we offer this kid? How do we handle that? To the kids that are doing that are trying to play the game, that are trying to hold out for the bigger offer. You know, you got NIL now that's in play. How do you go about handling that from the recruiting perspective? Well, what is that? I know that's got to be a headache for you.
Yeah. So if you're playing that game, so number one, we don't really play that game. So right. If we tell you we got 1 spot left and someone commits, you're out.
Okay. Got it. Yep.
Right. So every kid should understand that we are recruiting more guys than we have spots for.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I would say the average across the country is probably 4 to 1. You have 1 spot, you need to offer 4. That's probably a pretty average number across the country. Some are way more than that, and some are less than that. We are in that number. We have some positions where we're below that number because we do very well at those positions. But I would say that that's a pretty common across the board thing, is 4 to 1. And we tell guys, offer them, you know, this is what we got. You know, right. We're going to offer the guys, and you can, and with social media and all that, everyone knows who's offered where.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
There's no question. Now, you'll have a handful of guys. You'll have a Jordan Pugh at Plano West that'll be able to say, I'm going to wait all the way till February if I want to, and someone's going to have a spot for me. And there are a few guys that's the case.
Right.
You know, there's not a lot of those guys, though. I mean, it's a handful.
So basically you saying, like, listen, if you're serious, then we're serious. That's essentially what, you know, you're telling the kids, like, hey, man, don't play around.
If you find a place you want to go, you should commit. If they've offered you where you want to go, you should commit. And you don't need to get a graphic from 10 different schools to post on your social media if you know where
hey, that stuff drives me nuts, man. I don't know how y'all do it. I'm telling you, I don't know how y'all do it, man. That stuff drives me insane. Like, hey, congratulations. Are you going there or not? That's how I look at it. Like, come on, man. What are we doing? You know what I mean?
We now have 3 full-time graphics people and 7 student graphic people.
That's crazy.
All they do is only make graphics for football recruiting. No one else on campus.
Well, hey, man, you got a job on your hands, right? That's what they got you doing, huh? So, look, I only got a couple more questions for you, man, and we can get out of here. So, look. I'm going to let
Josh answer this one, all right?
Let's do it.
What's going on, Jordan?
Josh, what's up, man? How you doing?
Awesome, man. I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing good. So look, here's the question on the
Yeah.
table. Here's the question on the table, right? My parents are blowing me up about this. NIL.
Mm-hmm.
How does that affect the recruiting process? I know you can't get into super details, but you know, they want to know what's the process look like? How do you go about that? Is that something that's mentioned in the recruiting process? Is that an outside service? What does that entail, man? When we talk about the recruiting process, my parents are driving me nuts with this question because you know everybody wants to get their piece of the pie. So, what would you tell them? What advice would you give them? How would we go about that?
Yeah, so NIL, man, NIL, I think is could be a really good thing for student athletes, obviously, and you know, it's been an issue in the past with guys being able to, you know, if a guy makes a play, be able to make money off of jersey sales, whatever. But
right,
wasn't created intended to be used in recruiting at all, you know, and unfortunately, everybody knows, you know, I think in today's world, that's not really the case. So advice wise on NIL, man, and recruiting, I don't think there really is any advice because it shouldn't really be used for recruiting. You know, we can't, I can't get a kid on campus and tell them, hey, look, you can come here and make X amount of dollars. You know, that's illegal.
Right.
You know, any NIL talk in recruiting is illegal. You can tell them, you can give an example of what, you know, current guys on the roster make.
Okay.
You know, hey, you know, right now this is what our roster is looking like in NIL, but you can't. It's not intended to be used for promising guys. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Now, like I said, the NIL is a great thing. You know, I think each school has collectives, you know, put together. You know, those people on campus and off campus do a great job of fundraising for student athletes, and you know, guys strike up deals on their own. You know, with different businesses and people and organizations, which is great. But yeah, you know, recruiting wise, it's tough to give advice, you know, but just because you're not really supposed to promise anything.
Right.
So, yeah. Now, Oklahoma State, I mean, we've got a collective here at OSU that does a great job with our athletes. They do an excellent job, and our guys benefit from that. And you know, I think, like I said, it's a big positive in that regard to student athletes on your roster to be able to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Got it. Perfect, man. That's a perfect answer. You know what I mean? You covered all bases. Hey, look, you ain't getting it when you get recruited. All right, let's make it clear, right? So look, so let me ask you this, and I, you know, you deal with this and you try and tell them, but I think it'd be better if they hear from y'all. Is what are the red flags? All right, so let's say you're going down, you know, social media, for example, you go talk to the coaches, the counselors, whatever, right? So when you're in that recruiting process, what are those red flags where you see a kid and you go, look, man, I see this, I'm done. I don't need to see anything else. What are those things that those kids need to be aware of, that they need to be conscious of posting or whatever that is? What do you guys look for?
Yeah, you know, obviously, you know, any type of gun violence or anything derogatory towards women, or you know, any of that, the obvious red flags, you know, I think would be a big thing. And kids kind of are, you know, I think sometimes kind of get lost in social media nowadays. You know, the first question that Coach Bradford answered for you, you know, I think another thing that goes back to recruiting, in my opinion, is kids nowadays with social media. It's such a big part of their lives, and I'm of it too, man. I get on Instagram, I Snapchat my buddies, and I mean, I'm guilty of it too. But I think guys in social media, as far as really what's important, and you know, I see guys post all that. And in my opinion, this is one of my pet peeves: is being a social media diva. You know what I'm saying? Posting on their story. Go like my page. Go like this off. Come on, that stuff isn't going to matter when you're at 6 a.m. running stadiums in January.
Ooh, boy, I remember those days, man.
No one's going to care about that. So I think just, and I'm not saying that's wrong. You know, guys can, you know, live their life on social media or whatever. But I think the obvious red flags of any type of violence or, you can go online and see stuff that, okay, that may cause a little red flag with some of our guys. Because for us and Coach Gundy here at OSU, it's all about the Cowboy culture, right? So like I mentioned, we don't recruit a whole ton of guys compared to other schools per se. And the ones that we do have to definitely fit in that Cowboy culture with what Coach Gundy wants. And so we definitely do our homework as far as social media wise too. But I would say, in my opinion, that the number one indicator is talking to high school coaches. So, when our guys are on the road in the fall and the spring during eval periods and stuff like that, contact periods, and they're going into schools, sitting down with high school coaches and counselors and whoever, it could be a custodian in the school. Yep. They sit down with everybody, man, and they really dig and do homework on, okay, what kind of guy is, Jordan Pugh? What is he, how does he act, when you see him in the hall? Tell me. No. So I think it all goes back to just being a good kid for your high school, man, being all in at your high school. And, those high school coaches aren't going to lie to you whenever you go in and talk to them about guys. So, I hope that answers your question.
Man, it did. Well, I love it, man. I appreciate the time that you guys have. I only got one more question for you, and I can't leave it without this. Why Oklahoma State, right? So we got guys in possible recruits that could be watching and parents, whatever. Why is Oklahoma State a good option? Why is it the best option?
Well, I'll give you my opinion, and then I'll give you back to Coach Bradford. He can tell you what he thinks too. So for me, and I tell guys this all the time, when you're looking at a school, do some hardcore research, right? So look at the staff. How long has the head coach been there? Yep. How long has position coaches been there? How long have the academic people been there? The weight room people, everybody. I can tell you, and I work here, but I really do believe this place has an amazing culture that coaches has built up the last 18, 19 years. Consistency, man. 17 straight bowl games. Coach Gundy played here. He's turned down multiple jobs. He's an Oklahoma State Cowboy, man. The guy that you're spending most of your time with, I would say 3/4 of your time here, and guys don't realize this, but it's the strength conditioning coach, Coach Rob Black.
I say it all the time. That's the second head coach, man. Yep.
That's for sure. So Coach Glass, that was Coach Gundy's first hire when he got the job back in 2005. He hired Coach Glass back to Oklahoma State. He was another guy who was at Oklahoma State previously, was at Florida, and then Coach Gundy brought him in from Florida and has been here ever since. He's not leaving. The academic ball on campus, taking care of your son in the classroom, making sure they're on track to graduate. The lady who's in charge here at OSU was here when Coach Gundy was a player here back. So I think little things like that people don't really see, again, on social media, it's things that you have to dig and find out about. But the Cowboy culture, man, it's a great thing. We've got a great spot. Consistency, people stay here. They love it here. They love Stillwater. It's really a town centered around Oklahoma State football and Oklahoma State University. And, I think we're really, really close to being, at the very top. So, we're constantly working, and it's a special place. It really is. I'm going to let Coach Bradford.
Love it. All right.
I'm going to let Coach Bradford kind of tell what he thinks too.
Man, I don't know if I can get him to call back, man.
You missed when you blew me off.
About to say, man, he's gonna get that recruiting pitch. I don't to let him do it, man. Go ahead, Coach.
A couple great things. Stillwater's a football town, and our guys come here and have a lot of success. And we're Coach Gundy's one of the top 10 winningest coaches in college football history, and over the last 15 years, we're in the top 10. And so, if you come here, you're going to win, and you're going to get to play in, big stadiums. I think we were the number one draw. Like we had like 4 games that outdrew every Big 12 or every Pac-12 school last year. We had 4 different games something like that for their TV audience, you know. So it's a great place there, but it really does come, as you know, we have unbelievable facilities. We have unbelievable,
Yep.
But it comes down to the people in the building. You know, you have the head coach who's been here 17 years. You have the offensive coordinator who's been here 12. You have 4 guys on defense or 3 guys on defense have been here over 10 years. You know, I was here with Coach Gundy on his first staff all the way back to 2005. So was Rob Glass. You know, people don't stick around, as you know. You've seen a lot of guys. People don't stick around.
Amen.
You know,
we can talk about my experience at A&M. Yeah. You know the story.
I do.
Yep.
You know, so yeah, great place with, you know, and we've done very well in recruiting. I think we finished with the 2 best classes they've ever had the last 2 years, or actually 3 years, and then we finished in the top 10, I think, in the transfer portal class this year. Okay. So we've had a pretty good run of guys. We've announced a new, you know, I don't know what it is, $150 million football building going in across the street from the stadium. We're already in, you know, we had the whole thing that Boone Pickens built. You know, you used a little of it in the beginning, but I mean, it's still. So let me I'm going to show you something. Hold on. Let me to backgrounds. I'm going to take this to none. And then I'm going to turn this camera around. Let me see how I do that right here. So there's the view out my office.
Okay.
So I'm walking out the door, but we're working on the stadium right now, but you can see this where all our coaches' families sit here in the end zone. Pretty nice. Close to the sideline.
Yep. So, I remember those paddles hitting off the side of the pads, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep.
So
I remember
really
all
good
those
place.
days.
So that's our.
Love it. Well, look, Coach,
right.
I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. I know you're busy. You got a busy schedule. You're too busy out there recruiting guys, trying to get them to the school. But I really appreciate it, man. I think this is going to help a lot of parents answer a lot of questions that they have. You know, give some direction to their kids too. Like, hey, this is how you need to move. This is how you need to go. So I appreciate it. And I look forward to talking to you soon.